What's going on, guys? Today we are going to be talking about JD as they have earnings this Wednesday, November 15th. And what we are going to do in this video is we are going to take a look at what analysts are expecting from those earnings. I also want to take a look at their historical revenue and historical EPS numbers. Then we'll leave off the video by looking at their valuation and where the stock could be headed in the future. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure you drop a like down below. And if you want to see more videos like this one, make sure you hit that sub button. Let's start off by taking a look at where the stock is traded. If we look at the last 5 days, we can see that JD is down almost 6%. Over the last month, down almost 5%. And over the last 6 months, JD is down almost 32%. However, over the last year, it is down even worse, 50%. And over the last 5 years, it gets a little interesting because the stock is actually up almost 12%. However, it is down significantly from its highs of a little over $105. It's down around 75%. If you want to understand a little bit more about how this stock is traded down so significantly over the last couple of years, take a look at the video that I posted yesterday over Alibaba. I go in depth as to how the government has implemented a lot of new regulations that have really affected big players throughout China. JD is set to announce their earnings on Wednesday, November 15th, and analysts have an average EPS estimate of 5.87 Chinese yen and revenue coming in at 247.46 billion Chinese yen. And in terms of US dollars, that is equivalent to 82 cents in EPS and revenue coming in at $34.41 billion. In terms of revenue, JD has done a very good job of continuing to grow their revenue year over year. If we look from 2018, they were bringing in around $67 billion of revenue, and that number has climbed all the way up to around $150 billion of revenue. The biggest concern that I have with JD's revenue has to do with their growth. We could see that 3 quarters ago, they came in with a negative growth number of minus 12% year over year, and that has gradually gotten better over the last couple of quarters, and we could see that last year at this time, they brought in $34.23 billion, and analysts are expecting that to grow slightly year over year, so it's good to see them getting back to growth. However, we want to see them get back to numbers in double digits. And that can definitely be possible as China has really started to turn a corner, in my opinion, in terms of their economy. I think they're starting to loosen up on a lot of the restrictions around big tech businesses like JD, like Alibaba, like Tencent, and that's going to impact these companies in a major way, not only on their revenue front, but also their EPS. And analysts on Yahoo Finance have an average EPS estimate slightly lower than Google, sitting at 78 cents for the current quarter, and this would be actually a decline year over year from 92 cents a year ago. And no investor likes seeing a business decline year over year. However, one thing to keep in mind is that Yahoo analysts are not good at predicting this stock's EPS. We can see that over the last year, they have missed expectations in a major way. 39%, 40%, 34%, almost 12% this last quarter. So they have had a very tough time predicting EPS numbers for this company. The average of those misses by analysts is actually 31.5%. And if we take this number and multiply it by 1.315, we actually get $1.02 of EPS, which would be an increase year over year. So we'll have to wait and see what JD actually announces. But if I had to guess, this number is probably low compared to what they'll actually come out with. And honestly, when analysts are wrong by that much, it's kind of difficult to actually value a business. But what we can see for their current year of 2023, analysts are expecting $2.87 as their average EPS estimate. They have a low of $2.63 and a high of $3.10. And these would be a year over year gain based off their year ago EPS of $2.57. And for 2024, analysts have an average EPS estimate of $3.26, a low of $2.77, and a high of $3.89. And if analysts are off by 31.5% over the next year as well, we could see this average EPS estimate actually be closer to $4.28. And that can make it very difficult to value a business like JD when analysts are unable to predict how their EPS numbers are coming in. And I think a lot of that has to do with under expectations around China. People have really assumed that China is going downhill, and I think they have started to turn things around very quickly. Part of that has to do with them having the ability to continue to lower interest rates. The US obviously dropped interest rates in a massive way. China did not take the same approach, and they still have room to lower interest rates even further, which is helping their housing market, which has seen a lot of trouble over the last year. And the other thing has to do with the fact that they have really reverted a lot of their policies around big tech and are allowing it to grow again throughout the country. And that's going to help businesses like JD as well as Alibaba and Tencent. My biggest biggest complaint with JD's EPS numbers is the inconsistency we have seen over the last couple of years. We can see that they had 3 straight quarters of negative EPS numbers. We see a lot of volatility where one quarter they announced $2.59. They've also had quarters down around 8 cents, and now they're starting to get back to a baseline of around 40 to 50 cents, and that's relatively good to see that they are continuing that, but I hope they can actually grow that number, start getting it into the 60s or 70s. Keep in mind that these numbers on macro trends are actually their GAAP EPS numbers, while on Yahoo Finance we were looking at their non-GAAP EPS numbers. Another big issue with analysts not being able to project JD's EPS numbers has to do with valuation. We can see that right now they are sitting at a forward P ratio of 8.12. However, if we use the average EPS estimate for 2024, we get a number closer to 7.9 for the forward P ratio, and if we adjust that for how wrong analysts are and we put in that earnings of $4.28, we get a forward P ratio of 6. And if JD is able to come in with those $4.28 of EPS, we can see that that number would be a 6 forward P ratio based off the current price of $25.76. And if we assume that it should be trading anywhere from a 15 to a 20 forward P ratio, that would be a price of anywhere from $65 all the way up to $85, which would be 150% return all the way up to 230% return from the current stock price. And the good thing is we have seen JD trade at those stock prices before. Just at the start of this year, it traded all the way up to $64, and just a couple years ago we could see that it broke all the way over $85 up to $91. So it is definitely possible for JD to trade at those valuations. It's just a matter of the stock performing and really starting to see the Chinese economy turn around, as well as investors gain a lot more faith in China as well as US relations. Personally, I don't own any JD stock. However, I do think the company is in a very good position. I think there are 3 companies in China that are investable, and that is Alibaba, JD, and Tencent. Those are the 3 companies that I would invest in if I had to choose out of Chinese companies. However, I have enough exposure right now just with Alibaba to China, and that is where I am comfortable at with my stock position. So I haven't bought into any JD, even though the valuation is actually very intriguing, as well as the stock price being relatively down compared to where they have traded over the last couple of years. However, keep in mind, do not buy a company just because some random guy on YouTube talked about it. Make sure you are doing your own research and looking into companies that meet your risk tolerance as well as your time horizon. So with all that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below. And if you want to see more videos like this one, make sure you hit that sub button. And as always, guys, have a wonderful rest of your day.